Welcome to my channel, Sella Buzz. It's a humorous idea, and I adore it. This strong man, just Diane Lane, was leaving the office. Honored to collaborate with one of Hollywood's icons, Gene Hackman, was primarily recognized for his dominant presence on screen as well as all the memorable presentations that he gave to a large audience. Think that their collaboration was merely professional. But it was just recently. There have been reports of tension, for Diane did not retire for years after Gene did. Say anything, but never dealt with their time spent together. But after his death, Diane Lane eventually spoke in 2025. But what did she say? And why did it take her so lengthy? Let's find out together. The Hollywood icon. Gene Hackman is known for many things, but the one thing he is particularly notable for is his cinematic excellence. The man embarked on a wonderful journey from humble start to becoming one of the finest Hollywood actors. Gene was born on the 30th of January 1930 in San Bernardino, California, and from the time of his birth, his life was filled with numerous challenges. First, his father abandoned him at the age of 13 with his mother years old. His mom was unable to manage to raise him alone, sent him. At 16, he left to be with his grandmother. Years ago, Gene grew weary of the type of life he was leading and proceeded to join the United States Marine Corps. This was among the most pivotal events in his life because it was during this period that he gained resilience and discipline, qualities that later defined. Gene did not invest in his acting profession. Lengthy tenure in the Marines, and at the time he was released, he went right away to follow his passion for narrative in the fields of journalism and radio studies. He then proceeded to act, as it gave him a stronger platform to be able to develop his love for stories, and the person who trained Gene was Dustin, and he met at the Pasadena Playhouse. Hoffman, a former actor who joined the reserve star in Hollywood ironically at the school, both of them were voted least likely to succeed. Instead of this decision discouraged them, made them thrive, and helped them grow. The tenacity they had to develop into among the top in their industry. This resolve was successful since during John's, he began his early career with very little roles in television and stage. Nevertheless, over time, he developed and gained a great deal of his abilities that cleared the path for more important possibilities. Gene has accomplished a great deal of amazing films. However, the initial one that caused a lot of people to recognize him was the part played by Buck Barrow in For Bonnie and Clyde. This was a watershed stage of his career, and due to the fact that his performance was so excellent that he was given the nomination for Best Academy Award. Gene, the supporting performer, truly put his best into this position, which demonstrated is the capacity to not only act, but also provide depth and authenticity to incredibly complicated characters. Even though Gene did exceptionally well on Bonnie and Clyde, his French performance, the connection, was incredible, and it opened doors to new possibilities. From his perspective, he portrayed a tenacious and tough-minded police officer, and the audience was enthralled by this performance, so much that he was awarded an Academy Award. Best Actor Award for this performance's success. Movie established his standing as a leading a man with extraordinary ability to bring intricate stories about life after he became renowned for this incredible ability. Gene later played the well-known antagonist. This adaptable Lex Luthor in Superman role enabled him to demonstrate to the world how he was able to combine charisma and menace, and consequently became the standard for comic antagonists in books. A few years later, Gene produced yet another outstanding performance that depicts the brutal Clint's sheriff. Little Bill Daggett, Unforgiven by Eastwood, is an incredible film. He won the Academy Award for his performance. Gene's distinct performance as the finest supporting actor method of performing was founded on careful planning and steadfast dedication to authenticity. One of the things that made him so good was his strong work ethic, and he frequently devoted himself entirely to his duties, just to deliver a breathtaking performance. His character came with its positive and negative aspects, but it kept him on quite successful in his field, and it also brought a lot of tension on the set. As a result of Gene's only kept himself to a high standard of professionalism, norms, but he also believed that everyone. Gene blossomed so much around him that everyone was now inspired by his presence. His outstanding dedication did not only improve the performances of others in his immediate vicinity, but also set a bar so high enough to be daunting for most of the performers Gene had collaborated with, discussed how they frequently discovered. They contested to ascend to his degree of dedication, and as a result of Gene was able to establish a setting. It placed a premium on development and quality. Gene's impact was not limited to screen. His impact was primarily observed in how he influenced numerous people's careers, aspiring performers who admired him. As Gene, who served as their acting tutor, collaborated with some of the top filmmakers and participants in a collection of work that continues to have an impact on this day, due to Gene's outstanding performance for upcoming actors generations, possess the ability to approach their craft with such vigor and Gene integrity. Hackman's personal life was marked by how closely he relates to his first bestie Arakawa's wife, who is a couple of classically trained pianists, married in 1991 and spent a few years together. Following their marriage, they relocated from the limelight of Hollywood and continued living in Santa Fe, New York in a private life too. Everyone who saw them, Mexico, always stated that the connection between the two was really deep, and Bestie was a fantastic buddy and support network. For Gene, the foundation of their relationship was mutual regard and common interests. They shared several characteristics, including later works of literature and art. Gene's passion for painting developed into overwhelming, and his works of art were continuously embellished with regional businesses, so that even after he retired, the young man maintained his artistic side, life, through his paintings and writings. At last, Gene Hackman relinquished the ghost on February 26, 2025, as a consequence of excessive blood pressure due to heart disease and a severe case of Alzheimer's. Wife, however, also fell victim to the ghost virus just prior to his death, after their tributes flooded in from around the globe, as it genuinely signaled the end of a period. What did Diane Lane's disclosure on Gene Hackman? And what made her wait until after his death? Let's examine that first. The way these two were linked: the ascent to prominence of Diane Lane and her relationship with Gene. Diane Lane is a hacker similar to Gene Hackman, an incredibly intriguing voyage. She went from being a child star to one of the titans of Hollywood throughout the years. Diane has demonstrated that she is not your typical sort of performer, but an actress with she has a wide variety of emotional depth and effortlessly go from adolescent roles to more sophisticated performances. But one of the most crucial features of her career was when she worked alongside numerous seasoned actors, most notably Gene Hackman. Gene left a note while she worked with him, enduring impact on her career development. Diane was born on January 22, 1965, in the early hours of the day in New York City. She had previously been exposed to the universe of art by her mother and parents. Farrington, Colleen Lee, was a nightclub former Playboy centerfold and vocalist. Whilst her father, however, was a growing up, I was a drama coach and a cab driver. Before her parents, she saw art every day, divided at the time of the Diane was still quite little when they separated. However, she had developed a passion for the arts and was aware that she was still interested in. Thankfully, the industry's early. She was exposed to theater, and her goals were later shaped by her performance she made when she was only 6 years old. Her first appearance on stage with La Mama. She also attends the Experimental Theater Club, appeared in a Maddadia production, and she immediately started doing international tours. She was able to obtain the majority of the intimate knowledge she has of complex theatrical narratives. One of the items to which such early exposure for her acting was beneficial, impart to her a profound degree of professionalism and dedication that were, when she was 13, she was well beyond her years. Diane became enamored with film at the age of put so much effort toward honing her craft that she was successful in landing a major at last. Part in the film A Little Romance, in which Sir, the legendary actor on the other side. The movie, directed by Laurence Olivier, was a romantic journey between two young, one of the things was lovers on the run. It thrust Diane into the spotlight. She did a fantastic job with the part, that even Olivier, her co-star, was extremely amazed with her innate ability and frequently compared her to a youthful Grace Kelly and talked with fervor regarding how promising the future of The Little Romance was. A teenage actress, so effectively that Diane quickly got acknowledgement from the brand she owned. Never thought she existed at all. She was even given the privilege of gracing Time magazine's cover, and she was instantly dubbed Hollywood's next for Diane. However, this was a major tremendous strain because she was still in her adolescent years. Although she'd done a fantastic job under pressure, rather than letting it burden her, she used it to inspire her to work more. Her efforts paid off in her craft. Due to the fact that Diane was consistently appearing in a string of prominent projects, some of which Rumblefish and The Outsiders were among them. Francis is the director of both fantastic films. Ford Coppola. These movies had some of the most outstanding emerging stars like Tom Cruise, Matt Dillon, and Patrick Seas. As a result, Diane was able to confirm this. Herself as a bright and talented young person was also around this period when she displayed the screen alongside one of the most renowned performers in Hollywood, Gene Hackman. The initial partnership that they appeared in a film titled Yours Unfaithfully, and in this film, Diane was Gene's daughter in the role. When this film was released, Gene was he was no longer a struggling artist, and he was well known for his Academy Award-winning performances in He was Unforgiven and had a French connection, renowned for his astounding performance in Superman, in which the role of Lex Luthor. Gene was known for a single item, and this one item was one among the causes of his such an incredible career that he was well known for due to his rigorous work ethic and the manner in which he was devoted to his work. Gene was frequently described by both the filmmakers and his fellow actors as a perfectionist and someone who consistently anticipated complete dedication from everyone on the set. Had a great time. Gene's actions and his wish for everything to be completed flawlessly typically resulted in tremendous tension, and even the younger and less experienced actors frequently found themselves under a lot of pressure just to startlingly meet his high standards. One person in particular wasn't fearful of Gene's reputation, and Diane Lane was that person. This might be because she had, even as a young actor, to collaborate with a few Hollywood top actors and filmmakers from Coppola to Olivier, with whom she had collaborated, stars whose job was nearly flawless routine, and she didn't hesitate to them. Thus, rather than permitting Gene's, she absorbed expectations to make her smaller. Every aspect of his acting style, and regarded it as an on-screen masterclass. Diane's performance was outstanding. The interplay between them on Unfaithfully Yours appeared to be a lovely fusion of mentor protection and expert cooperation. Gene was not always thought of as incredibly heated on set, but he consistently enjoyed it when a performer took their work diligently, and Diane demonstrated a lot of self-control and inherent talent that eventually earned her all the acknowledgement she needed. So even when the two had a very professional interaction, they also had a mutual understanding between them. Gene never experienced any disagreements with Diane, and even if they did, but it was never publicized. Based on the way he would typically battle, it's to be expected with other actors. Perhaps there would have been conflict with the young actor several times with her. Gene never accepted any kind of indolence or lack of planning, and this was typically somewhat intimidating for younger co-stars. But in recent interviews, Diane remarked that she'd learned a lot from this veteran actor with whom she had collaborated subsequent. Interviewers could not tell if that was the whole truth after all. Diane had a totally different acting approach from Gene. Gene was more of a meticulous, precise, and sometimes imposing person, while Diane had a natural and fluid approach, and this enabled her to easily express her feelings. But in spite of this disparity, it was one of the things their daughter benefited from, and father-child bond, to become more captivating on screen following her role as star. In Unfaithfully Yours, Diane just maintained changing as an actress and assuming even difficult roles that demonstrated how she was incredibly adaptable back then. She had numerous setbacks in the late 1980s, particularly when several of her films started to perform poorly, but in spite of Diane was aware of this setback, never completely disappear from the field. Rather, when she realized that her films no longer performed as well as they were meant to, she retreated a step, and obviously honed her abilities before. She had a strong resurgence in the 1990s, but the part she played on Yours was unfaithfully a game-changer for. She played the part with ease, amazing role of a woman ensnared in an relationship that was gradually getting out of authority at that time. Diane provided one of the greatest performances that shaped her career. It brought her an Academy Award Following the success of this movie, she secured her place once more as one of the most gifted actresses in Hollywood. Diane frequently discussed how yours was one of the most unfaithful, worthwhile encounters she's had in her voyage, she said. It was an absolute honor for her to learn from an actor like Gene Hackman, and that Hadatali influenced her approach to the craft, even after Gene's retirement from. He left acting in the early 2000s, leaving a legacy of remarkable performances as well. As skilled emerging stars that consistently admired him, Diane Lane is one of them. She is on then nonetheless, still flourishes in the industry through indie film majors, television roles and film projects that she's consistently demonstrated why she should remain in the field. When we examine the on-screen interactions between Gene and Diane, cannot avoid observing how Hollywood typically combines two distinct generations of skills only to produce a memorable moment that will stand the test of time. The truth about Gene Hackman and Diane. For many years, Hollywood has been of the most breathtaking locations for various rumors, both private and professionally, practically. Everything said and typically, the industry exaggerates or merely made up. One such tale is the one about Gene Hackman and Diane Lane. The speculations went on about their working relationship, and maybe something more. It was stated that following their cooperation in the movie Unfaithfully Yours, 1984, the speculation about the presence of tension between the youthful and the seasoned celebrity rising star started to circulate like. They performed wildfire on film, excellently, and others began to notice that maybe their performance was way greater than the performances that Gene had with other stars. It then begs the question, was Hackman indeed rough on Landed? They at some time have a falling out, or was this another case of Hollywood trying to build a mountain out of a molehill? Stay watching to discover. Out at the brink of stardom, Diane was recognized for her poise and maturity, which were beyond her years and her innate acting, conversely, ability. Gene was like a formidable artist who has previously received an Academy Award. He was well known for renowned for having a straightforward mindset and made a strong demand not to just for himself, but also for the people he worked with. Many of the people he collaborated with honored his skill and how he was very committed to it. But even so, there were rumors that he might, when on set, act tough and intimidating. Consequently, after these two were cast together, the entire industry was interested in how would they respond. Is Gene able to genuinely accept Diane as a protege, or would his stern methods actually cause a great deal of conflict amongst? This was the question that many people asked them. Gene was tough, according to the reports, on Diane when they were shooting. Some of their crew members mentioned that he was typically quite severe and firm, and he constantly held her to the same high norms as he performed himself. One of the some even asserted that Gene was extremely likes to push the majority of the younger actors to the furthest in order to highlight the best in them. But a lot of actors, I never thought his method was gentle. But overwhelmingly, none of these have been Diane attested, as she has never genuinely asked if she was having any problems. Whenever she was asked, with Gene, when asked such things, she would simply divert from the conversation, which showed that she truly did not want to address the matter further. This would have been the end of the conversation, but in Hollywood gossip and conjecture area, few of the factors that contribute to it, but throughout time, the media has played a crucial part in helping to retain as long as these stories persist. So even when Diane didn't utter a word to verify, the people started to fill in the rumors about fill in the blanks and craft stories that inspired. There are numerous headlines about the rumors, started discussing whether Gene had disregarded Diane's extraordinary skills and if they had experienced a personal conflict due to Diane's feelings of disrespect regarding the Diane hasn't really contributed to the gossip. Each time she is questioned about Gene, she is typically quite respectful and frequently compliments him on his talent and expertise. In one of the Diane stated in interviews, "Working with John is more of a learning experience in my opinion. The man is genuinely committed, and you simply cannot fail to honor that. When I began collaborating with him, I was quite young and ready to learn a lot from someone with his degree of expertise." This statement lacked specificity because it didn't validate the public's concerns about tension, making space for a lot of interpretations. One was certain: if they encountered any challenging situations, Diane was not planning to produce them. The retirement of the public hacker and Lane's proceeded quietness following Gene's early retirement Many people were shocked in 2000. His leaving felt like an end to an era. But Diane Lane, one of the stars he had worked with, kept thriving in the industry for so many years. She had remained silent about her whole experience working with Gan, and this has sparked a lot of curiosity and conjecture after Gene's final role in Welcome to Mooseport, where he depicted a former U.S. president. He made a declaration that he would be departing Hollywood when he departed. He went on to live a relatively tranquil life away from Hollywood. However, during an interview in Empire magazine, he mentioned that he was resigning solely due to some health problems. He said that when he did a stress test, it revealed knowing his heart was no longer in its optimal condition and could no longer meet the demands of acting. However, when Gene decided to follow Diane's route of solitude, career started to get so good that she even later starred in the film Under the Tuscan Sun 2003, and in this movie, she performed the function of an author starting a self-discovery journey in Italy. The movie did incredibly well and reminded people about Diane's ability to provide nuanced characters with outstanding depth and genuineness. From there, she continued to produce outstanding performances, disregarding There were reports that Diane was extremely cautious, and she herself avoided having any conversations that would have her open out in full about her working experience with Gene Hackman. This silence has led to a lot of speculation, because it's not like she loves keeping mute. After all, she has spoken extensively about her working relationship with other stars. So why was Gene's case different? Most Hollywood insiders have presented various theories to explain Diane's silence. Some even think that Diane's lack of response is simply a demonstrate her level of professionalism by deciding to maintain her privacy exchanges outside of public areas. Others think that they might have numerous difficulties throughout their cooperation, and Diane is unwilling to recall the unpleasant experiences. But there are no indications of any Diane's confirmation that all of these are. The majority of people are already merely rumors. Think Diane had a serious issue while they were performing on stage with Gene, and they waited for his arrival with patience, reconciliation, or apology. However, offered how isolated Gene's life had been since he retired and how discreet Diane has attempted to continue pursuing the public, doesn't have much concrete information. Regarding this, some individuals think that if there were two real distinctions, they were settled in private, but some think that they might just have gone on without bothering to have further contact. This facet of their relationship is also enigmatic due to the parties did not acknowledge or make any remarks made in public to address the problem. Even after the death of Gene Hackman in 2025, a large number of performers poured in their tributes and appeared to discuss Diane and their time spent together. Lane did not release and kept silent any remarks made in public or even remarks regarding Gene's passing. Now her silence has only heightened the mystery surrounding her choices, and her admirers are starting to consider her true motivations behind Gene Hackman's demise and Diane's actions. Lane's initial remarks, Betsy and Gene Hackman's bodies. They found Arakawa in their Santa Fe residence on February 26th. It was discovered in 2025 that Betsy had passed as she and her husband lost a few days before. Her existence due to Haunter pulmonary syndrome is a very uncommon illness that is typically spread by Ratscan, who died about a week ago, lost his life following her death. Advanced Alzheimer's disease, atherosclerosis, and hypertension, cardiovascular conditions due to it was his state of cognition. Believed that he was ignorant of the couple's death due to the wife's passing was quite complex, and it just got more challenging after they learned the body of their dead dog right away. The family asked for an autopsy. The report ought to be sealed due to privacy issues. But this was really a strange action, particularly in New Mexico, where these records are usually public, and it just introduced a new component. Answer the enigma surrounding their terrible passing. Nevertheless, following the news of their demise, the world was transferred to motions, and immediately tributes started streaming in from all sections of the entertainment industry. Various actors, notable directors that Gan had worked with, remarked about his adaptability and his impact on cinema. Even Nathan Lane, who acted opposite Gan in The Birdcage, came forward to declare that Gene was his favorite actor, and he informed him that they worked every day. Gene's family also jointly issued a declaration, which they discussed how. They were so distraught that they even went on to demonstrate how Gan was more than just an successful actor with a cherished family participant who would constantly want to look following his family and supporting their as far as they were concerned. Gene was millions of people love and admire worldwide for his outstanding acting profession, but in their eyes, he was, for many years, Grandpa was a real father. Diane didn't talk about her experience while they were working together with Gene, but the rumors persisted. Despite this, from spreading, people started to turn around at their partnership in unfaithfully belonging to you and look for anything that would validate their allegations, but they were unable to discover anything, and Diane's behavior changed constantly. The subject, whenever inquiries were made regarding her connection with him following the wake, everyone questioned whether Diane would eventually confront their history, and she eventually did in thoughtful contemplation and an affectionate she said in her statement, "You could never catch him acting basic and sincere, contemplative and deep with just a bit of danger." She also went on to talk on Gene's propensity to excel in comedy and drama, a skill that people once observed the depth of his abilities. Diane provided the public with a preview of the regard she felt for Gene as a result, disproving all of the previous insanity. It was clear from the surroundings that the woman will never comprehend why somebody might consciously wish to become two stars. In any case, Diane was against each other, extremely cautious in her word choice, and despite the fact that it suggested additionally, it created a professional relationship, certain that everyone recognized that she had a profound admiration for his art. By performing, Diane was able to refute each and every idea of hostility and demonstrate to others that she held Diane in the highest regard, did not provide any justifications for her being silent earlier, but her homage provided closure by discussing how Gene had impacted her career and life. Words acted as evidence of the Gene's influence on practically everyone. What do you believe he worked with? Diane remained quiet because she wished to maintain private matters, or she didn't want to manage the stress she experienced when working with him. Let us know your ideas in the comments if you enjoyed. Do not forget to like and share this video, and follow the channel to learn more fascinating Hollywood tales before you proceed to view the remaining videos on your screen.